It just completely blew me out of the water.
More than $1 billion.
This is an avoidable conflict of interest.
Meant to be giving kids with disability a head start.
In my experience, this is right off the scale.
But is it working?
It's our kids and our kids with disability who are missing out.
Yes! Come and sit down. That's a good girl. Annabelle is 4. She's my 3rd child. She is a happy little girl.
Annabelle Holland spends a lot of time with adults, her parents, grandparents and many therapists.
It was just so important for Annabelle that she gets an experience to socialise with other little people of a similar age group. Here she comes! Here she comes!
Kira Hannigan's older children had attended an early learning centre in southeast Melbourne. But she was worried about sending Annabelle there unless she could get extra support. Then the centre told her a federal government program could make that possible.
It was a massive relief to know that the funding had been approved, that the service was going to have an additional educator in the room when Annabelle attended the service.
Thanks to funding supplied by the Inclusion Support Program, Annabelle joined the junior room in 2023 and thrived.
You want to do your puzzle?
It's so sweet to know that she's just got a couple of little children there who are interested and know who she is and they're excited to see her.
Hands on your shoulders.
Annabelle's rare genetic condition means she needs assistance to move about and understand what's around her.
To make that meaningful interaction with her peers, it's very important for another educator to be around to explain to her what's happening right now.
Why don't we do a song called Annabelle's Having Fun?
Since 2016, the Inclusion Support Program has helped early childhood education and care centres address barriers to including children with disability.
And then all your friends are going to have some lunch.
It currently supports more than 23,000 kids with disability by paying for additional educators, providing specialist equipment and supporting staff training.
Let's go. Whoop.
The idea is that all children benefit from early education and should have access to it. So Kira was shocked when Annabelle's funding was withdrawn earlier this year.
I was absolutely furious, bewildered, sad.
She was told Annabelle's funding was approved on the condition she'd move to a more senior room alongside her peers at the end of last year. When Annabelle didn't move rooms, the funding was pulled, even though her therapists explained she wasn't ready yet.
Despite my talking to every single level of possible person, I just didn't seem to understand, and I thought I was going a bit mad.
When Kira asked for the decision to be reviewed, she was told that wasn't possible, and that during January there has been a significant tightening of funding available through our program due to higher level fiscal government constraints.
See ya, Possum. Hey?
Instead, the childcare centre continued funding the additional worker itself, but Annabelle's mum began questioning whether the program was meeting its objectives, which led her to contact me, a reporter specialising in disability affairs. Many of the documents related to the program aren't accessible for people who are blind like me, so I've teamed up with my colleague Mary Lloyd.
The structure of the program is quite complicated. The Federal Department of Education oversees the scheme but has contracted the running of it to private operators. The main one is KU Children's Services, a not-for-profit that runs childcare centres across the east coast of Australia.
What do we know about where the money's going?
Well, this is what the government has told us about the program's budget and spending.
The government sets aside $133 million each year for the program.
It says demand for inclusion services has grown by 81% over the past 5 years. So in recent years, it's provided at least an extra $137 million to the program, which left us wondering why parents were being told their children couldn't get support because of a significant tightening of funding.
I just really question the people who are making the decisions and the processes that are in place.
To ensure that government spending is transparent, it should be reported online. Now, I've found one stream of inclusion support funding, and it's all itemised on Grant Connect. But the money that's being used for the additional educators, so that's about $560 million over 8 years. That's only recorded as one grant paid directly to KU Children's Services, and there's no detail of how that money was dispersed or how it was being spent. The lack of transparency raised important questions about the program, so we turned to public integrity expert Jeffrey Watson.
Hello. Good to meet you.
Hi, lovely to meet you.
Come on through.
When it comes to public money, what are the basic principles used to guide how money should be spent?
Transparency is absolutely critical. Confidence in the scheme comes from transparency. Could the way in which it's spent be improved? There's no point giving money where it won't be used effectively.
This is what we know about how the program is running. When the government set up the scheme in 2016, it sought a private operator to process funding applications. KU Children's Services won that tender. It also set up inclusion agencies in each state and territory to help daycare centres apply for funds and develop inclusive practices. Various not-for-profits were awarded those contracts. KU was chosen as the lead agency in New South Wales and the ACT and Queensland. In Victoria, KU is not the lead agency but works alongside them, meaning KU assesses funding applications nationally while also working with various childcare operators to put applications together.
It's a very messy design, and one which is putting in place some obvious potential for conflicts of interest. When you get a complicated scheme, you get high administration costs, you get other inefficiencies.
To mitigate any conflict of interest, up until August 2023, if KU-owned childcare centres applied for funding, those applications were assessed by a different company called Big Fat Smile. Now 730 has discovered that Big Fat Smile was contracted directly to KU Children's Services to carry out that work.
That's ridiculous. It's a complex of conflicts of interest. That's just wrong. I'm afraid this thing needs to be taken apart, examined and rebuilt. It's not functional under this.
KU Children's Services declined our interview request, saying its contract with the government prevented it from commenting publicly. In a statement, it told 730 its fund manager team is located in premises separate to the KU offices, and they have policies in place to ensure quality, consistency and fairness for all service providers. The Inclusion Support Program has been overseen by several federal governments over the past 8 years, so we travelled to Canberra to get some answers.
My name's Campanella. I'm working with Mary Lloyd on a...
But the Minister for Early Childhood Education, Anne Ali, was unavailable for an interview.
Okay, thank you.
After we sent written questions, a spokesperson for the Education Department confirmed that last year senior department executives realised KU should never have been contracted to approve payments from the fund. They reported the arrangement as not being compliant with government legislation and have since taken over the role of approving any funding applications.
What about the publication, for example?
Green Senator Barbara Pocock recently took part in a Senate inquiry into consultancy firms which examined how government outsourced work to private enterprise. Senator Pocock told 730 she wasn't comfortable seeing KU or any private operator contracted to manage a government program.
It is government business to allocate and manage its big programs like this one. This kind of service is vital. It's really important, and it is vital that it be provided with value for money, with the best outcome for our kids.
In her view, the program should be overhauled.
I certainly see a strong argument for having a close look at such a program and the conflicts of interest that are implicit there. The Australian National Audit Office is the place that can do that work with authority.
The detail of how that money was spent is still not public. After spending extra time in the junior room, Annabelle's now walking and has moved up to the pre-kinder area. As a result, her inclusion support funding has been renewed. But Mum Kira Hannigan wants to see change.
The government has decided that inclusion is important, and they've created an agency to deliver that. So if all the money's there, why on earth isn't it coming to the people who need it? Why are there so many barriers and complexities in that program?